What if the weapon Iran spent months hiding beneath the waves, the one that was supposed to give it control over the world's most important waterway, was simply erased in a matter of weeks by technology it never saw coming? Before we dive into what actually happened in the Strait of Hormuz, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We analyze breaking developments with the kind of careful scrutiny that separates real understanding from just repeating headlines. Share this video with someone who wants to understand the full picture of what is unfolding. For months, it was Iran's silent weapon, hidden beneath the waves, waiting. Now it's gone. But Iran isn't backing down. Just hours after the announcement, 2 ballistic missiles tore across the Gulf, heading straight for the Emirates. And within minutes, an entire nation cut Iran off. No trade, no money, no mercy. So what does Iran do now when its biggest weapon has vanished? Stay with us, because what happens next could change everything in the region. For months, a hidden threat sat beneath the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Silent, unmoving, waiting, naval mines, cheap, deadly, and almost impossible to find. But now that threat is gone. Officials have announced that the minefield placed in the strait has finally been cleared. Every mine either removed or destroyed. This is no small win. For months, this narrow stretch of water carried massive risk. Roughly 1/5 of the world's oil moves through this exact channel every single day. Tankers, cargo ships, military vessels, all passing through a waterway that could at any moment hide. An explosive threat below the surface. Now that risk has been lifted, and almost as soon as the announcement came, something remarkable followed. A bold symbolic image was shared, showing the strait marked as new territory under watchful control. A message sent loud and clear. The waterway that Iran once tried to threaten is no longer something Iran can control. But peace didn't last long. Just one day after this announcement, 2 ballistic missiles launched from Iranian territory, flying fast, flying low, heading straight toward the Gulf. The first missile fell short, landing outside Emirati waters. The second, however, crossed further. It landed inside territorial waters belonging to the United Arab Emirates. Neither missile struck a target, neither missile hit land, but the message was received all the same. Within hours, the Emirates responded, not with weapons, but with something far more damaging to Iran: money. Every single trade agreement between the two nations was suspended. Every financial transaction halted. No warning, no negotiation, just silence and a closed door. For a nation already struggling under economic pressure, this was a serious blow. And here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Just hours later, Iran's own government denied firing anything at all. No missiles, no launch, nothing happened. They claimed 2 missiles were fired, 2 missiles landed in open water, 0 targets hit, and yet 0 responsibility taken. This raises a serious question. If the missile launch achieved nothing and Iran refuses to admit it happened at all, what was the true goal behind firing them in the first place? Some believe it was a show of strength, a message meant for the world to see, despite the failed outcome. Others believe it may point to deeper problems happening inside Iran itself. Different military voices, different agendas, different levels of control, all while facing mounting pressure from every direction. The minefield gone, a major trading partner lost, and a public denial that raises more questions than it answers. In less than 24 hours, Iran experienced a dramatic shift in its position. From threatening global shipping lanes to losing both leverage and allies in a single day, and as tensions continue to build across the region, one thing becomes very clear: the balance of power in the Strait of Hormuz is changing fast. Behind every headline, there's a story that rarely gets told. This is that story. A naval mine may look simple, but it is one of the most dangerous weapons in modern warfare. No engine, no radar, no signal. It just sits silent, patient, waiting for the wrong ship to pass by. And Iran holds one of the largest mine arsenals in the entire region, built for one purpose only: to threaten the ships that keep the world's oil moving. So how do you clear an entire strait filled with hidden explosives? It is not as simple as sending in a few ships to look around. It takes an entire system working together, perfectly timed. But there was a problem. Just months before Iran placed these mines, a major gap opened up in America's defenses. The ships specifically built to detect and destroy naval mines had already been retired, pulled out of the region entirely, which meant when the crisis began, an entirely new approach had to be built almost from scratch. And that is exactly what happened. Smaller, more advanced warships stepped in, carrying specialized equipment built for this exact mission. But ships alone were not enough. Unmanned boats were deployed to search the water surface. Underwater drones were sent below, scanning the seafloor inch by inch, and elite divers trained specifically for bomb disposal went in by hand to confirm what the machines found, every single one working as one connected system. Above the water, the mission continued as well. Aircraft flew long, slow patrols, scanning wide areas of ocean for any sign of danger, but these aircraft were vulnerable, easy targets if left alone, so fighter jets stayed close, protecting them from above. Every part of this operation depended on every other part. One mistake, one missed signal, and the entire mission could fail. And here is the detail that makes this story remarkable. Military officials originally estimated this process would take around 6 months to complete. 6 long months of searching, clearing, and confirming, mine by mine. But the mission was completed far ahead of that schedule, faster, more coordinated, more advanced than expected. This was not just about clearing mines. It was proof of how quickly modern military technology can adapt under pressure. Drones talking to ships, ships talking to aircraft, every system working in sync. And through it all, one thing became clear. The tools built to fight modern threats are evolving faster than most people realize. While Iran waited, believing its mines would remain a long-term problem, an entire operation was already underway to remove that threat completely. And now that threat is gone, which leaves Iran facing a difficult new reality. The weapon it depended on to control the Strait no longer exists. And with it gone, the balance of power in the region has shifted once again. If you are finding this breakdown valuable, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe. We do not just repeat dramatic headlines, we examine developments with real scrutiny so you can understand exactly what is happening and why it matters. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and let us know what you think happens next. Your engagement helps us keep producing content that cuts through the noise. Every war has 2 battles, one fought with weapons and one fought with words. Right now, Iran is fighting both. Just days ago, an Iranian official made a bold declaration. The country was done playing defense. From now on, it would act with full force, full aggression, no hesitation, strong words, powerful words. But words are only as strong as the actions behind them. And that is where this story gets complicated, because within hours of that statement, 2 missiles were launched. Neither one hit a target. Neither one caused damage. Both landed harmlessly in open water, a show of strength that showed nothing at all. And then came the strangest twist of all. By the next morning, Iran's own government denied the entire event. No missiles were fired. They claimed nothing happened. But this creates a serious contradiction. If nothing happened, why deny it? And if something did happen, why hide it? This kind of confusion does not happen by accident. It often points to something deeper, something happening behind closed doors. Some analysts believe this reflects a struggle within Iran's own military structure. Different commanders, different regions, different agendas, each one trying to prove strength without coordinating with the others. One group fires a show of force missile. Another group denies it ever happened. 2 different messages from what should be one unified government. And when a government cannot agree on its own story, it often means internal pressure is building beneath the surface. Meanwhile, the economic reality continues to worsen. The Emirates have already cut off trade. Every transaction, every deal frozen. For a country already struggling financially, this is a heavy price to pay, and it is a price triggered by 2 missiles that accomplished absolutely nothing. This raises an important question. Was this really a show of strength? Or was it a desperate move, one meant to look powerful while actually revealing weakness? Because real strength does not need to be announced. It does not need bold statements or empty threats. It is simply demonstrated. And right now, Iran's actions are doing the opposite of what its words claim. Every day, fewer trading partners. Every day, less control over the waterway it once used as leverage. Every day, more pressure building from every direction, economic, military, and even internal. The mines are gone. The threats continue, but the results speak for themselves. 2 missiles fired, 0 targets hit, 1 ally lost, and a government caught contradicting its own actions within a single day. If this is what full offensive mode looks like, then Iran's options may be far more limited than its words suggest. As we continue through this video, let me ask for your support again. We are about to reach the halfway point of this analysis, and if you are finding this breakdown helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who wants to understand the real dynamics behind these escalating attacks. Your support allows us to keep producing thoughtful, balanced analysis that does not just chase headlines. We genuinely appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to watch and engage with our content. Every strait tells a story about power, and right now, the story of Hormuz is changing fast. For years, this narrow waterway has carried more than just ships. It has carried nearly 1/5 of the entire world's oil supply every single day, which means whoever controls it holds real influence over the global economy. For a long time, Iran believed the mines gave it that control. A silent threat hidden beneath the surface, capable of shutting down global trade at any moment. But that leverage is gone now, and without it, Iran's position in the region looks very different. Consider what has happened in just the past few days alone. The minefield cleared, a key trading partner lost, 2 missiles fired with nothing gained, and a government caught contradicting its own story. Each of these events on its own might seem small, but together they paint a much bigger picture. A nation losing leverage, losing allies, and possibly losing internal unity as well. And this shift does not just affect Iran. It affects the entire region. Gulf nations are watching closely, deciding who to trust and who to distance themselves from. The Emirates have already made their choice, cutting off financial ties completely. Other nations in the region may be watching to see what happens next before making their own decisions. Every choice they make now could shape alliances for years to come. Meanwhile, energy markets around the world are watching just as closely. Any threat to this waterway sends ripples through global oil prices. But with the mines cleared and shipping lanes secured, some of that uncertainty begins to fade, which raises an important question. What comes next for Iran? With its military leverage reduced and its economic partners pulling away, its options appear limited. It could continue pushing forward with bold statements and symbolic action. But, as recent events have shown, bold words without strong results often expose weakness rather than power. Or Iran could shift its approach entirely, seeking a different path forward, one that does not rely on threats to international shipping lanes. Either way, the region is entering a new phase, one where old strategies no longer guarantee the same results. For decades, control over key waterways has shaped power in this region. But that formula appears to be shifting. Military technology has advanced. Alliances are being tested. Old strengths are turning into new weaknesses. And as this story continues to unfold, one thing remains clear. The Strait of Hormuz is no longer the same battlefield it once was. The threats may continue. The rhetoric may grow louder. But the balance of power along this critical waterway has already begun to shift. And the choices made in the coming days may determine what happens next. Not just for Iran, but for the entire region watching closely. Let me pause here and give you the deeper analysis because I think this is the point where the individual facts need to be pulled together into something more than a list of incidents. What you're looking at is not a collection of random events. It is a strategic shift in the balance of power in one of the most important waterways on Earth. The clearance of the minefield represents a significant operational success for the coalition forces that carried it out. It demonstrates that Iran's primary means of threatening the strait has been neutralized. The missile launches that followed were a response, but a weak one. 2 missiles, no targets hit, and a government that could not even agree on whether the launch happened. This is not the behavior of a confident regime. It is the behavior of a regime that is reacting, not acting. It is the behavior of a regime that is losing control. The economic response from the UAE is equally significant. By cutting financial ties, the Emirates have sent a clear message. They are no longer willing to tolerate Iranian aggression. They are no longer willing to do business with a country that threatens their security. This is not just a diplomatic gesture, it is a practical response to a real threat, and it will have real consequences for Iran's already struggling economy. The denial from Iran's government is perhaps the most telling detail of all. When a government denies an event that clearly happened, it suggests that the event was not part of a coordinated strategy. It suggests that different factions within the regime are operating at cross purposes. One faction launches missiles, another faction denies it. This is a sign of internal disarray, not internal strength. Consider the broader strategic implications as well. Iran has spent years building its asymmetric capabilities. Mines, missiles, drones, proxy forces. These were meant to compensate for its conventional military weakness. But the minefield clearance shows that even Iran's most sophisticated asymmetric weapons can be neutralized. The missile launch shows that even Iran's ballistic missiles can be ineffective. And the economic response shows that Iran's neighbors are no longer willing to tolerate its aggression. This is a triple blow to Iran's strategic position. Its primary weapon is gone, its secondary weapon failed, and its neighbors are turning against it. This is not a minor setback. It is a fundamental shift in the balance of power. Think about what this means for Iran's military planners. They spent years developing the mine strategy. They invested significant resources in building and deploying these weapons. They believed that mines would give them leverage over the world's most important waterway. Now that leverage is gone, and they have nothing to replace it with. Their ballistic missiles are ineffective. Their economy is collapsing. Their allies are pulling away. And their internal unity is fraying. This is not a situation that can be sustained indefinitely. Iran needs to find a new strategy, but it is not clear what that strategy would be. Escalation risks, a wider war that Iran cannot win. De-escalation risks, appearing weak to its own population and its allies. The regime is caught in a difficult position, and that is exactly where its adversaries want it. As we approach the final section of this analysis, let me ask for your support one more time. If you have found this breakdown valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with anyone in your circle who is trying to make sense of the confusing events unfolding in the Middle East. Your support allows us to keep producing content that cuts through the noise and gets straight to the facts. We genuinely appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to watch and engage with our content. So where does this leave us? The minefield that Iran spent months planting in the Strait of Hormuz has been cleared. The primary weapon Iran relied on to threaten global shipping is gone. In response, Iran launched 2 ballistic missiles that hit nothing and achieved nothing. The UAE cut off all financial ties with Iran. Iran's own government denied the missile launches even happened, and the balance of power in the strait has shifted decisively away from Iran. This is not a minor development. It is a turning point in a conflict that has been simmering for months. For the first time in this crisis, Iran has lost a significant piece of leverage without gaining anything in return. Its mines are gone. Its trading partner is gone. Its credibility is damaged. And its internal unity appears to be fraying. What happens next depends on how Iran responds to this new reality. It can continue to escalate, launching more missiles, threatening more targets, and risking a wider conflict. Or it can accept that its strategy has failed and seek a different path forward. Neither option is easy. Escalation risks a confrontation that Iran cannot win. De-escalation risks appearing weak to its own population and its allies. The regime is caught in a difficult position, and that is exactly where its adversaries want it. The world is watching this crisis unfold with growing alarm. Each new incident raises the stakes. Each new threat narrows the options. And each new development brings the region closer to a breaking point. The question is not whether something will happen. The question is what will happen and when. The next few days will be critical. The decisions made in Tehran, Washington, and other capitals will determine the path forward. There's no room for error. There's no margin for miscalculation. Every action will have consequences. Every word will be analyzed. Every move will be scrutinized. Here's what I would watch for in the coming days. Watch whether Iran launches additional missiles or escalates its rhetoric. A pattern of escalation would suggest that Iran is trying to regain lost leverage. Watch whether other Gulf nations follow the UAE's lead and cut financial ties with Iran. A coordinated economic response would put significant pressure on Iran's economy. Watch whether the United States adjusts its military posture in the region. A shift in American forces would signal a change in strategy. Watch whether diplomatic channels reopen. Silence is not a strategy. Watch whether Iran's internal tensions become more visible. A regime that cannot agree on its own story is a regime under pressure. Watch whether the shipping attacks in the region continue or diminish. The pattern of maritime incidents is a key indicator of Iran's willingness to escalate. Watch whether Iran's proxies in Yemen and Iraq intensify their attacks. Proxies are often used when a regime wants to apply pressure without taking direct responsibility. Watch whether the price of oil responds to these developments. Energy markets are often the first indicator of where this crisis is heading. Watch whether any new diplomatic initiatives emerge. A breakthrough in negotiations would change the entire dynamic. The mines that Iran planted in the Strait of Hormuz were meant to be its insurance policy, a way to threaten the global economy and force concessions from its adversaries. That insurance policy is now gone, and Iran is left with nothing to show for it but a failed missile launch, a lost trading partner, and a government that cannot agree on its own story. This is not a position of strength, it is a position of weakness. And the world is watching to see what Iran does next. The choices made in the coming days will determine whether this crisis escalates into a wider conflict or whether it eventually de-escalates through diplomatic channels. The region is at a crossroads, and the path forward is far from certain. Think about the human cost of this crisis as well. The people of Iran are already suffering under the weight of sanctions and economic pressure. The loss of trade with the UAE will only make their situation worse. The people of the Gulf are living with the constant threat of missile attacks. The sailors on ships passing through the strait are risking their lives every day, and the soldiers on both sides are preparing for a conflict that could escalate at any moment. This is not just a strategic crisis, it is a human crisis, and it is affecting millions of people who have no control over the decisions being made in their names. The international community has a role to play as well. The United Nations, the European Union, and other international actors have the ability to apply pressure on both sides. They can impose sanctions, mediate negotiations, and provide humanitarian assistance. But so far, the international response has been limited. The major powers are focused on their own interests, and the regional actors are pursuing their own agendas. This is a crisis that requires a coordinated international response, but that response has not yet materialized. And the longer the crisis continues, the more difficult it will be to resolve. What do you think happens next? Will Iran escalate further, or will it accept its diminished position and seek a diplomatic path forward? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one and genuinely value your perspective. This is the kind of complex strategic question that does not have a simple answer, and it is worth thinking through carefully. The decisions made in the coming hours and days will shape the Middle East for years to come. The world is watching. The stakes could not be higher. And every single one of us who follows this conflict knows that the next development could come at any moment. If breakdowns like this help you understand what is happening behind the headlines, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already, and share this with anyone in your circle who is trying to make sense of the confusing events unfolding in the Middle East. A simple share can help someone else gain a clearer understanding of a situation that is often confusing and overwhelming. We believe that knowledge is power, and our mission is to make that knowledge accessible to as many people as possible. So please help us spread the word, like, subscribe, and share. Thanks so much for watching. Stay informed, stay curious, and we will see you in the next one.